Welcome to Gamblin and Ramblin, a weekly show where we react and rant about the weekend in sports betting. I'm Tim Kalinowski. I'm joined by Charlie DiSturco. You can follow us both in the Action app, Action YouTube channel, Action Network HQ on TikTok and Twitter. But forget about us, Charlie, because we have a very, very special guest today. The Vegas Refund, a.k.a. Luke, a.k.a. what'd you call him? The draft godfather? I mean, that's where we're going today, is the draft. So we brought in none other than Luke. First off, Charlie, how are you doing? Then we'll bring Luke in.
I'm doing great. I just had a big win with the Oscar Gonzalez home run today. So the day baseball treated me slightly well. But, that doesn't really matter right now because Luke's here. NFL draft is right around the corner. And yes, I did call him the draft godfather because if you have followed him in the past few years, the man is just money in the NFL draft.
Thank you. I don't want to I appreciate that, but I don't want to jinx it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Fair. Very, very, very fair. So the draft is Thursday, the 27th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay, that's my first note. So I nailed that.
Nailed it.
You got the first one out of the way. We got the time.
So 9 days.
So with 9 days, we talking a little bit before we got into it. First off, what made you kind of be a draft guy? It's obviously different when you're betting on teams to win, handicapping who's going to have a good day, who's going to have a bad day when you're betting on props. But when we're betting the draft, it's a completely different style of handicapping. So I guess my first thing is, how do you get dropped in there?
Honestly, it started when I was a kid where I have always just absolutely loved the draft, to the point where way back, and I want to say it was 8th grade or freshman year of high school, I literally went to the draft with my mom. But we waited outside of the Radio City Music Hall, where in the old days you had to wait in line for, I think we waited 8 hours, and it was a free event, but it was first come, first served. So you wait in line and they have X amount of tickets, and as long as the earlier or further you up in the line, the better the seat you get, and they run out of tickets by the line's over, you're not going. Yeah, so I've always loved the draft, and then it kind of just 2 and 2 came into play, where of course we love sports betting, and I want to say the Baker Mayfield, it was the first year that I really started becoming available, and all of a sudden this thing that I've always had a passion for, which meets the other thing I have a passion for, in one of the slower times of the year for someone who's into football and college basketball, and now I guess NBA playoffs, which I watched my first NBA playoff game a couple nights ago. It was just a match made in heaven from betting and the draft, and it's an informational market, and it's not something where you're betting on performance where someone could get hurt. You're basically just betting on an outcome that is decided by one person usually, or a group of people, and if you can hone that in, there's one thing that can probably go wrong if you're correct, which is a trade, which the odds are probably in your favor because always less trades happen than everyone thinks. But yeah, it's an informational market. It is one of the few things that books don't have the advantage, where I think really the sports bettor has all of the advantage, because there's the age-old saying of Vegas knows everything, and they really just don't here. They're setting awful lines, and you have the right info. You can sift through the smoke and what's not smoke, and talk to the right people, look at the right mock drafts. You have a total advantage.
I'll tell you, you're not missing much on the NBA front. That's probably the worst sport and product in the whole realm. But I will say, and you mentioned
this is a safe space for anti-NBA.
Yeah, we're anti-NBA here. But I will say, and listen, you mentioned sifting through the tea leaves and all of that. What goes into your decision? And obviously we've seen with the quarterback market this year with Anthony Richardson gets steamed, then it's CJ Stroud, now it's Bryce Young. Where do you find your information? Is a lot of it just you and a couple sources that you just trust and talk to throughout the daily? How do you kind of figure out what's real and what's not, and what's smoke and all that?
I want to say last year's NFL draft, Agent Hutchinson was the favorite up until he wasn't, and it was Trayvon Walker, which that was information I got prior, which was great. And then the NBA draft last year was probably the pinnacle of like chaos, where books just got destroyed with Paolo Banchero going, where I want to say the 48 hours prior to the NBA draft, Paolo and who's the other guy? Something Davis, the co-favorite.
Yeah, it shows you how much no one watches the NBA.
Yeah.
Which the NBA draft I love as well. Like I'm just as into it with NFL. It's just, which is great because I don't have a bias towards anything. But like they were just flip-flopping odds, where Paolo was minus 2,000 at 3 a.m. and then 5 hours later he was plus 500. And then Woj comes out and says it's going to be this other guy, and the odds just go off. And that was like at noon.
Oh yeah, that was bonkers. That was that whole day was wild.
And then 5 minutes later, Woj comes up and basically admits to being wrong. And it was Paolo, which was probably one of the bigger bets I've ever hit in my life. But it is such a sensitive market, and the books do know that it is informational based, and the bettors can have more information than them, meaning it's extremely sensitive. So like buying into Steam really is good and bad at the same time, where like you don't want to overvalue Steam in the betting draft market, because it takes, like, if the three of us went and bet on Caesars right now, would probably move the line. But at the same time, the favorites in the draft market are usually right, which, like, following the money in terms of like where the juice is usually the side you want to be on, and like the majority of the time. But at the same time, you don't want to chase Steam, where I thought it was CJ Stroud. It got me for a while, and it's not, and it's Bryce Young. So
are you sure of that with that CJ Stroud Bryce Young? Because I know that I feel like it's still, like, some people are still thinking CJ Stroud. Like, how do you, like, what is your read of that situation? Because I don't know, Tim, I don't know what your thoughts are, but like I know Simon Hunter went on today and said on GDD that he thinks it still could be Stroud and is not buying the Steam hype. So like I'm away. That's like the biggest thing that I'm.
Yeah, I mean, I like right now, if I'm making a mock draft, I'm putting Bryce one, where I think there is an argument that Bryce shouldn't be minus 1,500 right now, like at all. Like no one really knows. Like there aren't any like substantial reports where guys like Shefty, for the exact same reasons, Woj, like you don't, like there's one thing, like there's noise that you want to buy into, and then there's just like it's on ESPN. And when this stuff gets on ESPN, it's like it almost becomes too much, where like I got Stroud, I think I got him at like plus 650, which is a lot easier to hedge a plus 650 than it is if you laid Stroud at minus 200, which Stroud never should have been minus 200. But I definitely hedged out like my liability on Stroud, and I'm kind of just counting it as an L, where there are enough scenarios that I've gotten into that I actually need Bryce number one now, which more involve like the number 2 pick. But yeah, I honestly, like everything you're seeing, like, implies Bryce. Stroud is going, I think he's going on a meeting there tomorrow, which usually meetings this late imply that like they're making a last ditch effort, where maybe it was Stroud wanting to go there and not the Panthers actually taking him. But yeah, I'm kind of just number 1 pick. There's not a lot of interest. Like it's more something like if things start to come out, you want to be like one of the first to jump on the Stroud value, than like worrying about whether it's Bryce or Stroud at this point, and kind of figuring out the chaos that the number 2 and 3 pick are.
You said when by the time something comes on ESPN, you're like, oh, it's almost too much. Are you someone that if you're just confident in this is going to happen, you'll keep hitting it at the number, even if the number's like minus 10,000? Like if you're just like, nope, I'm still hitting that number. Like, this is what I believe.
So yeah, it's like there's a certainty, a minus 200 in the draft market doesn't equal a minus 200 in a regular sports game. Where if you know the outcome, like minus 200 might as well be minus infinity, and that is 100% fair to lay it. Where when we get like high, like the 500s, like it's just like I'd rather just not tie up money for. If we get close enough, I might, where it's only the money's only tied up for a couple days, and it is an absolute certainty where like you've like. But at the same time, I would rather keep hitting like you can get like one prop at like plus 1,500 a couple weeks ago, and then you get some information and it's down to plus 500. And normally in principle, you're like, oh, I already had plus 1,500. But like if there is if you're confident, like I'll keep hitting it even at worse numbers as long as it's, I guess, technically value, because in the draft market, a plus 200 today very well could be minus 500 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which
I
technically
feel like
is
someone
value.
tailing. I feel like someone tailing too. I almost have to be okay and kind of tell myself beforehand, like, I'm probably going to get a worse number than you. It's just a matter of like how much I'm willing to live with that worse number. How worse is that number? You know what I mean? Because if you're getting plus 1,500, then it's like, 500. It's like, well, that's actually still pretty good if it's going to end up at dash 300.
Right. Totally get it.
I guess the other thing, you gave out Joey Porter last night, right? And that was minus 110, 115 when you first did it. Now it's like minus 350, 360. And then it just shows how much, I guess it shows how much people are following you for that stuff. Does that ever does that ever kind of like weigh on you a bit? Do you deal with that? And just how do you deal with, like, obviously you have such a big following, you can move a number altogether. Is that, first off, that's sick, right? Like, that's sick that you have that following, but also like it's kind of stressful at the same time, no?
And like Caesars it was 16.5 and Caesars at 19.5 now, which I wouldn't bet the over 19.5, but it's a controversial subject from everything that I see, where I've been giving out free picks. I've been doing this with the draft and everything else the same way for many years. And in such a sensitive market, when I do give out a pick, it kind of blows it out. Like, it blows it up, where I don't want to, some can argue that Joey Porter prop is like, I ruined it. For anyone, where 19.5, like that, I wouldn't bet the under, but it's not a bad bet at this time, where I can, like, there are middles that I'm creating for others, I guess you could say. But Caesars did it wrong. DraftKings does it right with this, where Caesars moved it from 16.5 to 19.5, and they're just opening themselves up to get middled, which limits are the biggest issue for a lot of people. But DraftKings just juiced everyone out. So they didn't move the number. It's minus 350 or whatever it is. And you want to bet it, you're going to have to lay the juice, where they're kind of pricing everyone out relative to like what I posted it, where now Porter's like 19.5 at a very like minus 130, I think. So it has gravitated towards like juicing people out, which some props do it. I wouldn't have moved the Porter number because that's like a bad middle potentially. But yeah, I don't feel bad, but I do feel bad for those where I try, like, Porter's been up at this number for weeks. Like, that was one of the first ones that went up. There's no right answer. I feel bad but at the same time, like, I don't, because I'm doing it so that I can help people, and that's really the only reason. And yeah, I'm confident that decent amount of people got it.
When I hear you talking about, like, basically, line shopping and then opening up for middles and stuff like that, all I thought of, like, if I asked you what your if you could give me a pie chart of how much of your brain is used in handicapping the draft, I could feel like the pie might look like 5% gathering information and then 95% line shopping and seeing like middling opportunities. I just feel like I would be sitting there with my eyes running out of my head trying to, look at line shopping, all these ridiculous ways to get at any sort of number like Porter. Like, can I get first this instead of that? Can I get a better over number instead of that? Like, how much of your time is spent line shopping?
So I have this Google Doc that people can purchase for access. That's like, it's great. And I have an odds dash where there isn't really a over-under odds dashboard that exists that's live, that I keep it extremely up to date, where I'm kind of just updating. And right now, over-unders are available, I want to say, on 4 books. So, and I'm just constantly checking each to see where, like, you don't want to, even though I said you don't want to buy into Steam, you want to see where like the money's coming in to like monitor, and it definitely is value to line shop. But I would say honestly the opposite. Everything is informational. Mock drafts, It is, and my process started in January, so it's like 4 months where I could list off the first 2 rounds probably off the top of my head right now, team by team, on who picks. But it's everything. It's a crazy grind. And then the NBA drafts, you get a month off and you do it for the NBA draft, which is far less information because it's easy to gather information because NFL's king.
Right.
Where NBA is far less, which I hate the NBA, which is my advantage. Like, I don't have a personal bias because, like, betting the draft off your personal bias is like, don't do it. Like, you're not the one making the decision. If you think this receiver is better than this receiver, you do not bet that. So you need to bet what you think these people or the front offices are going to do, which that's where, like, being a fan comes into play. Which the NBA doesn't. So
yeah, I when you say that, I think that's like the biggest like mantra for sure, because I think that Bryce Young is the best quarterback in the draft. Like, I have a bias from watching him at Alabama. Charlie and I argue over this all the time. He's cooked me like in so many bets fading Alabama, and I'm like, this guy is the best quarterback in the draft. I can't separate who I believe a team is going to take between what I think who is actually the best wide receiver, running back, what have you. So I think it's like lucky you for not having any bias in like the NBA, because I get so wrapped up.
This quarterback class is like the exhibit A of sucking people's personal opinions into what they're betting, because it not being a strong quarterback class is creating a lot of personal opinions on, like, Levis isn't good, Richardson sucks, he's a freak, but he sucks, Stroud is better, like, Bryce is too small. Like, there's a catch for each quarterback that is basically illuminating extreme personal opinions on who should go to first, where I believe that Levis is not going to make it out of top 5, top 4. But people continue to put him in the 10s. But yeah, this is a extreme case, which the chaos is at like peak levels of all time for the draft, which, like, with chaos is like opportunities that we can leverage, where if we just knew the answer to the test, there would be nothing to bet because they just make everything minus a million. Where I don't have a certainty, but I'm confident that I have more of a certainty than, I guess, everyone else, to whatever degree that is. Which the quarterbacks, it's no one knows. I really don't think anyone knows.
How many hours do you spend in, like, if you estimate it, you're like, all right, Luke sits down and opens up laptop and starts reading articles or hitting up people. How many hours do you spend, like, a day? Let's say early. You mentioned earlier it's kind of like it's always busy, but like how many hours a day do you spend from start to finish on a given day, say entering draft week or the 2 weeks prior, with like just researching and analyzing everything?
Like, if I'm not doing my real life job at Action, it's draft. Like, it is, and I'm late night, like 2 a.m. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just like reading stupid shit or like reading mocks or like updating my doc. It's a constant. It's like, I don't even want to admit it. Like, I don't even.
So you find yourself on the like Longhorns fans are us like Reddit page, and you're just reading about like Bijan Robinson, and just like
I dig into Reddit.
Like
dig into Reddit. There's a couple of Reddit guys I love looking. I make a few appearances on Reddit here and there. Like, Reddit is so underrated. Like, it boggles my mind how like people actually use it as like users and comment and stuff. But like, it's popping. I think it's the most yeah, there's a ton of stuff.
It's bizarre. It's like, I feel like Reddit might one day be like, I remember how like teachers would tell us don't cite Wikipedia. Like, it might eventually be like you eventually can cite Reddit, because there's so much information on Reddit. Is there certain people or certain sites where you're like, that mock draft is I know I cannot trust that mock draft, or I can put more leeway into this mock draft because it's like, oh, is that so? That person usually has an agent in their ear. Like, are you able to sift through that pretty quickly and know which ones to take serious?
Yeah, so I aggregate mock drafts. Right now it's like at like 40-ish. And there's a couple websites that like you can pull mock draft ratings. So like after the draft, these websites will give the mock drafts a rating based off of like player, team, exact prediction correct. And I've been scraping, I want to say like a 5-year average, where I have like, I think it's like 150 from the best to the worst, which is how I value the mock drafts, like on a macro level. But like micro, like there's the obvious guys like Jeremiah. The key guys are Jeremiah, Brugler, McShay, Zerline for the Texans, who Zerline is fantastic right now. He's the Texans plug. He's known to be connected. He's mocked the Texans correctly a couple of years. He got them both correct last year. And he is very much being very public about what he's being told. He's like replying to a ton of tweets, which if you go to his replies, there's like a lot of diamonds in the rough there. And he has stirred the pot greatly in terms of what happens on the number 2 pick, where like he is shifting odds tweet by tweet. Zerline's great. Jeremiah's like the GOAT, specifically Jets. Kuiper is the godfather. I refuse to shame him. Who else? Walter Football, and Charlie Campbell, who's on Walter Football. That site is prehistoric. They're historically the 2 best mock drafters that exist. I don't know how they're connected, but they are. And people want to laugh at their website, but they continue to just know the future. Like
I just remember like 7-year-old me just like going on walterfootball.com, and it's the website that has not changed in 15-20 years.
Yeah, at this point, like they can't, because it's like the brand, and they make so much money on ads probably around this time. But like same thing, like young kid Googling mock drafts, Walter Football's at the top. Their SEO is fantastic. You click it and like, it's like you're on MySpace or something. But they are the best at mock drafting, and they are connected. Like the Raiders are very connected to, and I don't know how, but they are.
It's really another world. Is there more like is your bread and butter over under like pick number, or is it like first of that position? Like where do you butter your bread, or is it everywhere?
Yeah, it's pretty over unders are definitely like what I put the most into. I guess you could say bread and butter, where like they're really being slow on over unders are putting out this year. Where Caesars put up a bunch a couple days ago, which is great, but I still want more. And the first pick has been great. It's really everything. Where this year, I've team to draft first position is one thing that I've been focusing on more, because generally it's thought of as a weaker class, where the top talent isn't as great as years past, but like the fall off, where you can see some people are saying, or reporting that teams have like 10 players with a first round grade. So when we get towards like the back end of the draft, normally in years past, teams could just take best player available, which is usually the best plan. But since it is a weaker class and the drop off is so severe, you could see teams going need, which is laid out for everyone, whether it's a depth chart, any site on what team needs are. Given the weakness, like team need could be in play a lot more, which towards the back end of the draft, you get way bigger numbers because it's way less predictable. That I have been focusing on. But yeah, over unders, exact pick. I think we got 1 through 10 right now. Team position, I haven't really got it. Player to team, I have less interest in. But yeah, everything. I mean,
I guess you also mentioned obviously reading all the news and stuff, and when there's delicate situations, say like the Jalen Carter situation with like Lord knows what's going on with him getting off the field trouble, and then how much do you just kind of stay away from stuff like that, or do you think that that's like a perfect opportunity to end up on a side because maybe he has the top talent as far as his pure raw talent goes, but he's also a nutcase off the field?
A guy like Jalen Carter, if these issues were happening for any other player, like he'd be out of the first round, like easy. Where it kind of speaks to like how talented he is. But like characters is such a variable that you can't measure, that you just don't know how team by team they're going to value something like this. Where for me, I don't think he falls where everyone else is projecting him. But like there's guys like Rob Statton, who I respect a lot. I bring him up on every show I go on, who runs a Seahawks draft blog, which the fan blogs are hidden gems too, because they're just focused on their team and they're basically obsessed with it. And they have angles and their perspective is very valuable. And like he is ride or die. Jalen is not going to the Seahawks at 5. And then you got the Lions, who traded Okudah, so you think they're going to go corner. Where the options, if you just lay it out, like are tight for Jalen, but at the same time, February before he got arrested, people were projecting him in the top 3. So you have probably the most talented player in the draft with the biggest character concerns. That is like, stay away. Even though like I've wanted to bet the under because I think he's not going to fall. But I think honestly, I don't know who, but I think he like goes 7 to be honest. But yeah, character, you can't measure it. You have no idea. That's like an opinion thing that you just want to stay away from. But if you start hearing reports that, specifically when we get like really close, that guys didn't interview well, which you kind of want to take, but there's always like red flags that come out, which when we get the red flags for anyone else than Jalen Carter that haven't been reported now, but might be reported within the next week, guys can fall out of the first, like, because they don't have the talent that someone like Jalen Carter does to keep them in.
So Seahawks fan blogs, like, do you just fucking read and read and read and read? It's like...
I guess I read very fast. I don't do podcasts though. If I do a podcast, I listen at like 2x. Like podcasts are like too slow for me, where I can like read an article in like a couple minutes. If that, where like podcasts are just like scrubbing through. They're just too slow, and there's only like 1 or 2 things you can pick up, like that you like are gonna like extract from anything that you read or listen to, where it's so much easier just to read it and find it. The Seahawks draft blogs, I found him through one of the mock draft rating sites. He's fucking awesome. He's the best. I did an interview with him a couple days ago, and yeah, he's great.
That's hilarious.
So Luke doesn't listen to our podcast. Then that's basically what he's saying.
It's too slow.
He doesn't listen. He doesn't know what's going on. It's too slow for him.
He said it's too slow, and then he said he likes a lot of information. You're getting no information here. So
I watch the clips. I watch you guys' clips in the app all the time, where it's like the 30-second clips. Those are great. Those are like built for me.
There we go.
That's all you need.
At least you have a
30-second
fan.
clips.
It gets you the view.
Yeah. Hey, we don't
exactly.
Luke, so when you mentioned like the sports that you're dialed into, are you a college football fan then, or no? Because I feel like you didn't mention a lot of watching college football.
Oh yeah, NFL, college football. Which like watching it, like none of that really affects this. It's, if anything, like this draft process helps me for like the fantasy football season in the August, where like I know every rookie like extremely well. We're going into it like, even though like the days of the underdog like best ball, they're kind of like eliminating anything of that nature, but because people are already drafting, which is insane to me. But yeah, I guess it's somewhat just like get you ready for next year, and which Bijan is probably going to be a top 2 rounder. Like he might even go in the first, who knows? But like, and he is the landmine that you have no idea where he's going to go. And I think he's going to go way earlier than people think, but he's going to go like top 20, like easy. And he will have a direct impact on whatever team he has next year.
I'm just picturing people like making their mock drafts by film, and like, yeah, I watched this guy, and you're just like, I don't really give a shit. I'm gonna read what other people think what their team's going to do, and I'm basically moving from there. It's two totally separate things, right?
Yeah, like the context within the mocks are like part of like, and there's only certain guys that do it where like they're gonna be the mock drafters that do it based off of like their opinion, which are great. But then there's gonna be like Traeger, who put his first mock out today. Traeger, Zerline, Walter Football, or Charlie Campbell a little bit, where like there are diamonds in the rough, and there was one today in Traeger's that it was great, and I haven't bet it yet because I'm waiting for a better number, but so I'm not even gonna put it out there because the market's so sensitive. But like there are diamonds in the rough where
we're gonna find out if you said it. We find out if anyone watches our show. Just the funniest experiment ever.
I mean, honestly, like this one, I want them to move this one just so I can get like the reduced juice. Where like it's set like Caesars has the most, and it's like every guy except for a few are like minus 200 on one side, where this guy's sitting at minus 200 something, and like I just want. Like I need someone to bet it so that hopefully maybe they move it. Because I would rather take a higher number for this guy at like minus 120, 130, whatever it is, than minus 200, whatever it is. But yeah, it's in the context that's like, those are the diamonds where you want to look for like context, like teams are higher or teams are lower or higher on this guy than the media might be perceiving or propping him up in the mocks. Where that's where you could get guys like to go round one value or unders or overs where books don't know. Books are going off mock drafts probably too. Yeah, which gotten like 3 email requests for my Google Doc from DraftKings people in the last 2 days. It's like someone has the link, and it's just I've responded to each one. They haven't replied, but like they're requesting it from a DraftKings email. It's like at least like try and hide it.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
It's hilarious.
That's so bizarre. Like why not? That's
They
so
should just
good.
pay. They should just pay you. They should just pay you to give them the information that you hear or to set their lines at this point, because you're the one that's
fuck them.
fine.
Fuck them. I don't want honestly, like I don't want to help them because like I still believe they're bad at this. Which the lines that they've been setting, I'll give them credit, like have been a lot better than years past. But they've also said a few bad ones, which like gives me hope that they're still bad at this because I think they suck at this still, and no one needs to help them.
So since they still suck, what will it take for them to be good? You guys joining their team, enough for you guys joining their team, or like making like the lowest limits possible? Like what? How are they? How
no,
can
like
they
the line, like so one of the first bets I put out was like. JSN, so Njimba out of Ohio State, the wide receiver, and they opened his line up at 11.5, which was an awful line, and they should have opened it up at 12.5 at the very highest, because there's like it is basically Texans or bust, like slight chance for the Titans, which it's at 12.5 now. We're like that's just a bad line that they're setting. Where great, like, and I bring this up all the time. The worst line that's ever been set was Devontae Wyatt last year. Caesars opened him up at 12.5, and it closed at 33.5. So like that was a bad one. So those like happen. Where
how much did you bet it? Did you just constantly bet as it went up and up?
I just kept. I honestly just kept. It kept moving. I just kept hitting it because like that was like one guy that was like he had character issues and he wasn't good enough to keep him in. But there are bad lines where it was
Caesars is like, is it fixed now? You're like, no. They're like, did we get it right now? No.
Yeah, no. Did you see
is this good?
Just boom, boom,
No.
boom, 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 boom.
It was great. I mean, which that's like a great example. Which there's certain books that like Bet365 is copying DraftKings over-unders, and then PointsBet just bowed out, Circa bowed out. But FanDuel and Caesars are kind of they set their own lines where it can be they copy, like it's like certain books are like setting the same, but then you have like Caesars and FanDuel who are kind of like standalone where they're not even looking, or they might think this is more right than the others, which that's where like the discrepancy in the line shopping and can happen. But yeah, like we are in like crunch time where like the Stingley going 3 started to come out around this time last year. What else was a good one? JC Horn was great. I think that was the year before. But like things are starting to come, and like they have just bad lines set where what like FanDuel set. This wasn't like a lock or anything, but like they came out like Michael Mayer specific team odds a couple weeks ago, and they opened. It was like Packers plus 400, a couple other teams plus 400, 500, and then they had Lions at like 35 to 1, and you had to like actually like expand to see them, which the Lions should have been like plus 400 open, which that would be like a bad line value wise, where you still need them to take him. You don't have like, there's a way more volatility, of course, with something like that, but like now it's plus 500, where the Lions at 18 are one of the favorites to take him. Which I don't know if he's going to go that high, but like I would never bet Michael Mayer to go to the Lions at plus 500, but I would definitely bet him at plus 3,500. Those are the bad lines that you can pick up on.
You said the only thing that really messes stuff up is trades. So when you're watching the draft and you hear like, we have announced a trade, are you just like, oh shit? Like, are there other moments that make you say that, or is that trade's the worst?
The earlier the trade, the more it will affect it. So like when we get into like, once we get past pick 10, there isn't as much of a ripple effect, but like, especially this year where, I mean, the top 4, whether it goes quarterback, or 2 quarterbacks, 2D, or like just 1D, like the domino of one of those scenarios happening is completely different. Like if Anderson and Tyree go in the top 4, it's going to drag Jalen Carter down. Or if they don't, it's going to push him up. So like where these guys are in terms of like the pecking order that you think they're going to get drafted on, when a trade happens and a guy goes earlier, it pulls everyone down. Which is why when you're like betting into over-unders, you want to have a balanced attack in both. Like you don't want to have all unders, you don't want to have all overs, you don't want to have too many in the top 10. Where I learned a while ago that I had too many in the top 10, where it basically became something that I had to predict the top 10 perfectly in order to hit those. Where you want to spread yourself out, where if you're like betting an under, the next spot you should be looking at is that same range but an over, because if that under hits, that's pushing that guy up, which would correlate into an over. So it could be correlated winning or it could be correlated losing, but yeah, you want to even it out. You want to have, because there are scenarios where you basically need to predict how everything goes, and trades like that, spreading yourself out and giving yourself cushion can screw it up, but it can also, like, you can adhere to that tolerance for risk.
I'm gonna give you a rapid fire, just like 5-6 questions about the draft. Obviously it's the 18th right now, so there's still a long time and a lot could change, but gun to your head right now. We'll start. I'll ask you questions, you give me the answer. Stroud or Young? 1.
Young.
Where does Jalen Carter go?
Top 7 Cardinals, if they trade.
Okay. Does Will Levis and Anthony Richardson both make it inside the top 7?
No. Actually, yes. I think Richardson falls. Levis doesn't.
Okay. Who is the first wide receiver taken off the board?
I'm going to be contrarian and say Jordan Addison.
And Bijan Robinson, what pick do you go? Does he go inside the top 15?
Yes. Easy. Yeah, I think there's a better chance of him going top 10 than, like, because there's certain teams, if like he doesn't go there, then like it's hard to pick out a spot.
Teams are still drafting running backs in the top 10. Like, really?
I know. It's which, I mean, he's probably the best. He is like Saquon level, probably better in my opinion. But like, and Jeremiah made a great point. Like, he can live with the team taking a running back if they're in win now mode. Where
I would say that
getting his prime years compared to like if you're a losing team, you're just wasting them.
So you're leaning that for like Philly then? Is that why?
Especially if you have 2 first-round picks, like Philly or like the Lions and Philly are the 2 trendy ones. Or like Falcons are probably, I think they're the favorite to take them, which I don't buy. But
these teams, Detroit, yeah, they're running back away. Come on.
They also have like every running back pot. Like that running back room is too many already. Like get someone else.
I mean, I do get Philly, but these teams. Charlie, you're done with yours. I want to do one.
Yeah, but Philly also like they could have. I don't know. I thought Sanders was good, but anyway.
This is why I can't do it. This is why I can't do it because I'm like, no, don't take a running back. What are you doing?
No, but now that he says he goes inside the top 15, I'm looking at that minus 160 at Caesars. I'm like, oh, maybe I lay the juice a little bit. Luke said that juice is not that bad in the NFL.
It's only juice if it loses.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it might not move because no one watches. So who cares? Luke, you said you have the basically first 2 rounds are locked into your head. Can we see how far you can go with like team by team by team the draft order in the first round?
First round, yeah. Just list off the order.
Yeah. So can we see how far you can go?
So we got Panthers, Texans, Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Lions, Raiders, Falcons, Bears, Eagles, Titans, Texans, Jets, Patriots, Packers, Washington, Steelers, Lions, Bucks, Seahawks, Chargers, Ravens, Vikings. Vikings, Jaguars, Giants. Don't tell me. Giants, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, Saints, Eagles, Chiefs. Done.
That is incredible.
That is so wild. That is.
I don't
so
even think I
wild.
could have given you the top 5 correctly if we're being real right now.
I was looking at it the entire show and I couldn't have flipped it over and given you the top 5.
Yeah.
It's sick shit. I know. It's fucking.
That's why we're Gamblin
sicko.
Ramblin and you're coming on our show.
I'm a sicko. That was fucked. That was wild.
I knew you were gonna ask me. I don't think I could do. I definitely couldn't do the second round. No shot.
Luke was studying the draft order because he knew we were gonna ask him that. He's sitting there like before the show, the last hour. Sorry, I can't do any work, boss. I need to get this order down.
I was honestly, but I shouldn't. I was nervous you're gonna ask me to do the first 2 rounds because what I said earlier was like, but that'd be fun.
You were definitely like, what gimmick will these kids want to do? It's like,
Rambling, baby.
Yeah. That's it, Charlie. He nailed that first round. I think that's a mic drop moment. I don't really know what to say. That was pretty wild. I was reading it off too, and I was stunned.
Yeah, I was like flipping through like his NFL draft betting tabs, just trying to figure out where the order was, and just watching it. I thought you were gonna get slipped off at the Giants Cowboys, but
I know.
That's bizarre. That's bizarre.
Yeah. So I'm sick of shit.
You could find Luke at Vegas Refund on Twitter. You also at Vegas Refund in the app as well, Luke?
I am.
All right. That's where you can find him. You can find Charlie DiSturco on Twitter at Charlie DiSturco and his Action app. I'm TimmyCal12 on Twitter. Don't follow my Action app. Thank you for tuning in to Gamblin and Ramblin. Good luck. Thank you, Luke, and good luck in the draft as well.
Thanks, gents.
Peace.